Good Tuesday morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's weather forecast, we're going to be doing something a little different. We're going to be walking you through the rest of winter into early spring outlook, kind of taking you through where we could see the cold and where we could see the snow and who could see severe weather moving ahead all the way through April of 2023. If you guys have not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button down below and the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates. We just hit over 14,000 subscribers out there the other day. So thanks to all the new subscribers out there. So again, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. Looking back here, this is the Nino index, and we are still in a moderate La Nina here as of this morning. And you can see going all the way back through December, through November, and much of October here, especially the second half of October. We've been hovering back and forth across that line of moderate La Nina status, and it really continues as we move through towards the middle of January. And looking at this here, what the La Nina means for the winter, we usually have a polar jet stream that rounds all the way up here towards the Alaskan areas here, all the way down here into western portions of Canada. That will brings down all that polar air and that cold Arctic air into the northern and northwestern United States. We also have that Pacific jet stream that moves in across the Pacific Northwest, bringing those active rains across those areas. And usually it is drier across the desert Southwest and the southern plains. And then with the phasing of the two jet streams, we see more wetter conditions across the Ohio Valley. But as of late, we've had that El Nino type of pattern where we've had some very heavy rain in California, very heavy snow out west. And it does look like that will remain the case going through the next couple of weeks before we get back into this La Nina winter pattern going towards the end of January. So looking at the La Nina conditions and why we see this here, these are your sea surface temperatures across the equatorial Pacific Ocean. You can still see those colder anomalies with those deeper blues down here just to the west of South America and south of Hawaii, with all those warmer than normal sea surface temperatures north of Hawaii. And that is again a classic signature sign of a moderate La Nina out there. And over the past 7 days, this is the past 7-day change of the sea surface temperatures. We still have those stronger trade winds blowing from east to west across the equatorial Pacific Ocean here, and that's going to be continuing to create those weak to moderate La Nina status type of events across portions of the lower 48 here and much of Canada, as well as we have that influence still at least through February. So looking at the consolidation of all the climate forecasting models out there, we put all the models together and see where they are trending with this La Nina and where we are headed here towards early spring months. So right now we're in a moderate La Nina, but as we go through February and into March and eventually into early spring here in April, we do trend a little bit more towards neutral conditions here at zero. So that means we're going to have more of a hybrid type of pattern where we have El Nino pattern one week, maybe the next week we have a La Nina pattern here, kind of a mishmash of both type of patterns. And then as we go into early spring and eventually here beyond, there are signs that we could turn more to a weak El Nino pattern as we get towards that time frame. A lot of time between now and then, so this could change, but I do favor neutral conditions as we get through the spring months, especially as we get towards March and April of 2023. If you guys are still with me on the video, definitely press that like button down below, that thumbs up button. It helps to get all of this weather information out to more and more people. I definitely appreciate it. But going through the second half here of January, so this is January 16th through the 23rd time frame here of 2023, we are still very warm, very mild across the eastern two-thirds of Canada and the United States. We have the cooler temperature anomalies across California, getting down through the Phoenix area here in Arizona, and that is due to that very strong El Nino type of pattern we've been seeing of late, with a very heavy rain and very heavy mountain snow across those areas. And you can see that colder air with the trough across the west, bringing all that unsettled weather to the western United States and the desert Southwest during this period. We have that high pressure system working its way up here into eastern Canada and the eastern two-thirds of the country through that time frame. And again, it does look pretty active across the west, but it does also look active and beginning to become more active across the eastern two-thirds of the country, the Midwest, the southern plains, the Tennessee Valley, and parts of the Northeast as well, even up here into Ontario and Quebec, Canada, during that 16th through 23rd time frame. I do think we'll start to see more rain events and maybe some snow on the northern side of these systems, but predominantly more rain because of those warmer temperature anomalies. And looking at the Climate Prediction Center's forecast, this is their official forecast for that time frame around the 16th, 17th through the 23rd time frame of January. It does look a lot warmer across the eastern two-thirds of the country, centered on the northeast and the mid-Atlantic, and cooler across the desert southwest, including California, Arizona, and much of the Four Corners region. It also looks very active from west to east across much of the lower 48 here in the United States, maybe slightly below average precipitation in West Texas during that period. But moving forward towards the end of January, from January 23rd through the 30th and even 31st timeframe to close out the month, we still see the warmer than average temperatures across the eastern two-thirds of Canada and the United States, with the cooler anomalies across the Four Corners region and much of the Intermountain West. But we'll start to break down some of this cooler air as well, as we have more troughs moving from west to east across the center of the country, bringing more unsettled weather to places like the Midwest, the central and southern plains, and more likely here into the Ohio Valley as well, with that blocking pattern starting to take shape across the Aleutian Islands and the northeastern Pacific Ocean during that period as well. And that's going to be setting up more drier conditions eventually towards the end of the month for the Pacific Northwest, the West Coast, and the desert Southwest, including the Four Corners region. And then you can see across the eastern two-thirds of the country, especially the southeast and the eastern seaboard, from Florida to Maine, we could be talking about more nor'easter potential, maybe some more snowstorms and rainstorms across the eastern two-thirds of the country during this time. But as we turn to February now, so to getting out of January and moving into next month, February 2023, these are your temperature anomalies here by the Climate Forecasting System's version 2 model, which does a pretty decent job of showing what we could expect through the month of February. A very big plunge southward of Arctic air, it looks likely here, and this has been a consistent signal for the last several days. And you can see the deep blues moving down farther south through Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Canada, and farther south toward the Dakotas, even all the way far south here to the Red River in Texas and the southern states here as well. And that warmer temperatures will be suppressed farther south towards South Texas and Mexico and even Florida during this period. Also very active. We'll have a very active subtropical jet through the majority of the month of February, which will be setting up some higher than normal precipitation anomalies through much of the central and eastern two-thirds of the country throughout the month of February. With that subtropical jet being very active to the north of that, we could be expecting some bigger snows up here through portions of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. And I did draw this up here for potential February 2023 storm track. I do think that storm track will originate across the desert Southwest, move its way across the southern plains and through the Ohio Valley into the Northeast. On the southern side of this, the southeastern side of these lows, you could expect more heavy rain events, maybe some isolated severe weather events at times as well. Very dry with that positive P&A coming back across portions of the southwestern United States here, so that drought will begin to worsen once again across southern, central California, getting back through Arizona and New Mexico. And then on the northern side of this, we could have some cross-country type of winter storms across the Pacific Northwest, diving down across the central and northern plains and the Great Lakes region as well. Places like Chicago, Detroit, the Twin Cities, getting back here through Nebraska and much of Wyoming. That's where we could be seeing those bigger snows throughout the month of February, so we'll have to watch out for that. Maybe some snow getting into portions of interior New England, but I do think throughout the month of February, we could be seeing more rain across that I-95 corridor, depending on the overall track with these systems. Now moving ahead to March of 2023, it does look pretty cold still across the center of the country, with still that lingering effect of that polar vortex disruption event still ongoing, especially into western and central Canada and throughout the Great Plains here. And we have that strong positive P&A out west here with those warmer than normal temperature anomalies for California, Nevada, and the West Coast, and kind of a mixed bag of warmer or cooler weather across the East Coast during this period. And we also have a higher signal for above average precipitation up here across southwestern Canada, British Columbia, and toward portions of Alberta and Saskatchewan, and parts of the higher elevations of Washington State, northern Idaho, and Montana. Maybe some heavier snow up there. Very dry across the southwestern United States with this signal here, and a more active period across the eastern two-thirds of the country through the month of March. And again, drawing this up for March the 2023 storm track there. It does look like a couple of these storms, at least the main storm track, will start to originate across the Rocky Mountains here, dive all the way south towards the Red River in Texas, and then move up the East Coast here. More of a classic nor'easter type of potential with the bigger snows from Maine all the way back through the Ohio Valley and parts of the Northeast. Definitely some bigger snowfall potential, I do think, in March. A mixed bag of rain and snow systems across portions of the north central plains and the upper Midwest during this period. Very heavy rain and maybe some severe weather at times across the southeastern side of this system, of these systems across the southeastern United States, and then very dry with that positive P&A across California, Nevada, Oregon, and Arizona, and even parts of Utah as well across much of the west and southwest throughout the month of March. Now moving ahead to our final month of April here of 2023, it does look predominantly warmer across much of Canada and especially the western two-thirds of the country. A little bit more of a mixed bag of warmer or cooler temperatures at times across the eastern two-thirds of the country through the month of April. Looking at the precipitation anomalies, it's kind of a wild card. We could have some areas across the desert southwest picking up some much needed precipitation. We could also see some active weather up here to the upper Great Lakes, but in between, it's kind of hard to call right now. It's kind of a wild card. It could be drier, it could be wetter. We'll just have to wait and see as we get a little bit more information and data on that as we get closer. But this is my what I drew up for my potential April 2023 storm track. It looks like more of an East Coast storm track here, riding up the East Coast throughout portions of the Mid-Atlantic and towards Maine here. On the western side of this, there could be some snow, maybe a bigger snowstorm, not out of the realm of possibility across the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, or interior New England. Heavier rains across portions of the I-35 corridor down here into northeast Texas, getting through the Arklatex toward the Tennessee Valley, and then a big area of drought will be worsening across the west here, as we have a lot of stronger high-pressure systems crashing into the west coast here, providing us with a lot of drought ongoing out west, and we're going to be building that drought back up, I think, throughout the month of April. So here's my thoughts. This is my summary here of the winter 2022 and 2023 into early spring timeframe. It's going to be a mild January, active precipitation across the west, less active precipitation across the east here, and that's ongoing right now. A very frigid February is expected. That polar vortex is expected to disrupt. Bigger snowstorms are definitely very likely throughout this period as well, especially with that cold air. A very chilly March is ahead as well. I think the cold sticks around from that polar vortex in February right into March, at least the first half of March, with some snowstorms during that period, especially across parts of the Northeast. And a wild card April as well. We have cold and or warm conditions with some active weather in April. It's kind of a wild card right now. We could have some snow. We could have some severe weather and heavy rainfall in some spots. Other spots may stay dry with that drought worsening out west through the month of April. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I definitely appreciate it. Remember to like the video down below, give it a thumbs up, leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new, and hit the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. Have a great rest of your week, everybody, and I will see you all in the next video.